We will call to order the September 18th, 2025 meeting of the Economic Development Authority. I would be looking for a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Do we have minutes to approve? We're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, it's in there.
Is that all right? Be looking for a motion to approve last month's minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed. All right, we're gonna have some guest presentations today. You wanna cue this up?
Yeah, absolutely. So, sitting here is Mike Heen. He's the new executive director of the Small Business Development Center as of about a year.
February.
Yeah. Okay.
February 19th.
So definitely wanted to get him in and have him introduce himself to the board. And I said it would be a shorter presentation, so it's not his usual full spiel. But I'll let you.
Well, I want to thank the Sherburne County Economic Development Authority for inviting me here to talk to you today. Again, my name is Mike Heen. I'm with the Central Minnesota Small Business Development Center. The Small Business Development Center, it's a nationwide organization. In Minnesota, there are 9 separate SBDCs. In particular, the Central Minnesota one serves Sherburne, Stearns, Wright County, Benton County, and portions of Mille Lacs and Morrison County. What the SBDC does is dovetail very nicely into the goal of this Economic Development Authority. We help businesses, entrepreneurs get started into business. We provide free one-on-one consulting funded through state and federal grants for anything from business startup, preparing to speak to banks for loans, marketing, business acquisitions, and even winding down of businesses. The main way we reach out to people is and let them know that we are a service available to them is talking to organizations like the Economic Development Authority, talking to banks, talking to other economic development agencies, in the hopes that when an entrepreneur comes to you saying, I want to start a business, but I don't know where to go, you can refer them to us. We have, in our particular SBDC, we have 8 consultants, plus myself, that have a variety of experience from former bankers, marketers, and even the former director of the program, Barry Kirchhoff, who is consulting for us right now. I'll be honest with you, it's one of those things where it's the easiest thing I'd ever sold in my life because it's a free service. There is a cost, of course. I mean, it's paid for by the taxpayers, but it's to the benefit of the entrepreneurs. More recently, we're working on hiring a new consultant that's based in Otsego, so we can better support Wright and Sherburne County and the areas in the eastern part of the area of our region. So Brian and Missy and I, Brian with Sherburne here, we've been trying to work more closely together, and we've been trying to really find the entrepreneurs, help them get into business, and that's really our ultimate goal. We can provide up to, typically, when we have an engagement with a client, it's about 10 hours of consulting from start to finish. We can certainly can go significantly more than that if needed. We are tracked by the state and by the federal government on certain milestones, that being businesses served, businesses started, equity or loans being put into the business, things along those lines. Which are the natural consequences of getting into business. So it really flows nicely into the ultimate goal of helping the entrepreneur. So that, in a nutshell, is what the SBDC does. Like I said, it's going to be a very brief presentation. I know you guys have a lot going on. I don't want to keep you here forever. So if you can, if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them.
I do. I'm Andrew Olson, one of the county commissioners. Do you track metrics around the 1, 3, and 5 year success rate of the businesses that go through the program?
We don't, because once we achieve the goal that we're working with, it becomes The onus of following up falls on the entrepreneur, you know, to follow up if they have any additional needs. Now, oftentimes we'll have people coming back to us saying, we have an issue we need to work out. They're not a worker, but we need help turning this around, and we can help them with that as well. And we have specialists who work with the turnarounds and getting business back on track. But no, we don't have any set metrics, nor do we have the mechanism right now to do the follow-ups.
I would think to Commissioner Hals's question that might be something that would be beneficial, because that would also help you know if a business, a lot of times if a business goes down, they're not gonna be reaching out, but it's a good time to get an assessment as to what happened.
Right.
What can we do better on the front end
Oh, certainly,
to help
yes.
achieve success, so I think to his point, those are probably good ideas to see if there's a way to pursue.
And I would agree with you, and we'll certainly take that into consideration.
Have you seen any changes to your funding streams at either the?
Yes, we have. Of course, with the challenges at the state level, the state funding isn't as large as it has been in the past. Fortunately, we are pretty well funded in the central Minnesota region. We have partnerships with the Initiative Foundation. Are helping us facilitate additional grants through the state. Through the federal government, we have been specifically identified by the Trump administration as being a priority through SBA funding, meaning the SBDC has been identified as a priority on there. So I don't have any concerns about the federal funding, the state funding. In fact, it's a timely question because I've just been working on my next 5-year budget, and I feel we are well funded for the next 5 years, so that we're not going to have to throttle at any point services to our clients. We provide somewhere around the area of 4,000 consulting hours in a year, working and with a goal, and we are achieving that goal of 400 unique clients in a year. I'm looking to increase that, particularly with the outreach in Sherburne County, and we do have the funds to support that.
I think I think it's an important initiative. I'm growing more and more concerned. There's a trend in employment where people over 50 are being let go in much larger numbers than they have historically, and highly disproportionate to their percent of the working population. And they're having an almost impossible time to get rehired. So their only option is to start a business of some kind in order to sustain themselves. And I think it's not bubbled up to the surface yet, but it's going to, and it's going to be a big issue.
And to your point, Commissioner, we are seeing a lot of older applicants, people who have been in the workforce for 20, 25 years who now are looking to try to start their own business and are having success with that as well. They do have the expertise, they do have the experience. It's just a lot of people look at opening up a business as a daunting task. We help break it down and make it a achievable goal by showing them how to do things. Even things as simple as how do I register for an LLC, how do I get a tax ID on the federal and on the state level, to the details of, let's work up a cash flow model, let's get some profit loss forecast together, and let's put up a marketing plan, create a logo, things along those lines. So things that would otherwise cost a significant amount in the startup phase, they can get for free, and it's a high quality service.
Is there a business you see more of starting up than more?
Well, we see a lot of restaurants typically, but surprisingly we get a wide variety of businesses coming in. Anything from I have individuals that come in with an idea to patent a product that they've invented that they might have a working model of, to cleaning services, I just did one with out in Delano. It was a horse therapy. So it's a wide variety of services, but there is no limit to what we can provide, except we cannot work unless it's on a very limited and restrained basis with nonprofit organizations.
Thank you, Mike. And one thing we're trying to do is work a little bit closer with SPDC and Mike, and in 2 weeks or so, we'll do kind of a tour of some of our local lenders and credit unions, because I've been wanting to get out more to our local lenders, and Mike has too. So we're gonna do it on the same day and really give them kind of a both SPDC and EDA approach to what we can offer.
Hit them with the 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, comments?
I appreciate your time and for listening. Now, unfortunately, I'm out of business cards, so I don't have any to reach out to you. But if you would like to reach out to us, we are hosted at St. Cloud State University. Our website is stcloudstate.edu/SPDC. My direct line is 320-308-2254. If you ever want to get in touch with me, if you have a business idea or you know somebody that's looking to get into business, all they have to do is sign up for services, and we can start providing the consulting for them.
Brian, you can send us all that information.
Thank you, Brian, appreciate it.
And is there an opportunity for us to connect all of this information on our county website?
Yes, and we'll make a better bulletin on the main page.
Well, and I think you mentioned too that you just hired a new consultant for
Yes,
right in Sherburne
Well,
County.
we're in the process of
Okay.
it. As you know, the wheels of the state move slow, so we're working through the process, but we are gonna have one. He's based in Otsego. And I wanna get him to know Brian, and I want him to, I wanna be primarily focused on sussing out those entrepreneurs here and those that need the assistance to help get them into business. He's a current score mentor, and a very enthusiastic and experienced person, so he's gonna be a great fit.
So I think that update would probably be helpful for this group too.
Well, certainly.
And do I'm just questioning, do the chambers have all that contact information? Not that, for their businesses, but for a lot of times people will call a Chamber of Commerce that isn't a member of that commerce because they're asking questions, they wanna start a business. If you give them that information, they can connect you.
I know they have the SPDC information on most of their websites, but it'd still be good to make sure that it's updated
Yeah.
to Mike's
And then with the
information.
new person
Yeah.
coming on for
Right.
our area.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to come down and reminding us of the services available.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Look forward to working with you. Okay, looks like Emma's online.
Yeah, I can kick this off a little bit. Central Minnesota River, I forgot the acronym, right? Central Minnesota River Partnership.
CMRP.
Mississippi.
Minnesota River.
Mississippi, okay. We're trying to get a bridge crossing over the last 10 years, and we're slowly making progress from a transportation study to a Pell study to a Tier 1 study, and we've recently transitioned to a nonprofit, and we brought in Emma and Shane to kind of explain the reasoning for that, and then what the future looks like with that group.
All right.
Great.
Take it
Thanks,
away,
Dan.
Emma.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. So, like Dan said, I'm Emma Nelson. I work for Flaherty and Hood, and we've been working with the CMRP group since the middle of last year. Has it been that long already? And we're doing organizational management and nonprofit consulting for the CMRP. And then I'll let my colleague Shane introduce himself briefly too.
Yeah, so Shane Zart with Flaherty and Hood. I'm an attorney with the firm, but spend most of my time primarily at the Capitol as a lobbyist, but also work to support our nonprofit and association clients such as CMRP. And I'm just here kind of introduce myself, give everybody a sense of our team. I'm going to let Emma do the rest of the talking, since a lot of the work that we're doing for CMRP at this stage, she's really the motor of. But I'll hang around, be available for questions, and I'm sure Dan is worried that if it is me that does the talking, the meeting will be off schedule immediately. So with that, I'll leave it there and turn it back over to Emma, but thanks for having us.
Perfect. All right, I don't know, can I control the slides? I'm assuming not, so we can jump to the next slide. So I'll give a pretty quick overview of the history of both the project that we're working on and the partnership. Like I said, Flaherty and Hood sort of came into the mix midstream last year. So I'll encourage Dan or Commissioner Danielowski to jump in here if they want to add anything to what we have. So next slide, please. Great. So since, way before 2016, there were groups and local governments getting together in the area and identifying the Highway 25 corridor as a potential issue area, especially as the region has expanded and grown, related to traffic congestion and safety. In 2016, a group including the cities of Becker, Big Lake, Monticello, and then Big Lake and Becker Townships and Sherburne and Wright counties formed what was called then the Trunk Highway 25 Coalition. And that coalition supported an initial exploratory transportation study on the traffic and service level in the area and gave some very preliminary recommendations. And then from there, that group continued to work with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, other partners to lay groundwork and learn more about what needs to be in place to support further studies and project development. And then also, widen the scope to explore a little bit more about the impact on other regional issues, really thinking about economic development, infrastructure, all of those good things. In 2023, the group began supporting, what's called a Planning and Environmental Linkages or PEL study, which is a further analysis of the corridor conditions on the Trunk Highway 25 corridor in the area. It has a really robust community engagement and feedback component, and then also provides those next steps in terms of solutions and basically some direction for where we go from there. We're wrapping up the final report now. So the final report is put together and it's going through a feedback process, but we're expecting that to be finalized any minute now. And so as we look towards the future, we're going to be considering that final report outcome, and that's going to direct us towards some future studies and analysis, as well as preparing some of the boots on the ground engineering and planning and design, and then eventually construction. And I'll say this a few times, but it takes a really long time to build a bridge, and it's really complicated, and there's a lot to consider, and there's involvement from a lot of stakeholders. So the groups of local governments and the CMRP and its iterations have played a key role here in sort of keeping the trains on the track, and pushing this process forwards. All right, we can go on to the next slide. So I touched on this a little bit in the previous slide, but there's been a few different iterations of this group. The Trunk Highway 25 Coalition, which I mentioned earlier, was formally created in 2016, but there's been, a longstanding history of regional collaboration around transportation issues in the area. And then that group evolved into the Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership, and this is where our acronyms get really confusing because that's also the CMRP. But that's a joint powers entity formed in 2019, expanded their scope a little bit from that initial Trunk Highway 25 coalition, hence the new name. And that was the group that really got the gears turning on the PEL study and some of those other planning efforts. And then in early this year, so January 2025, the Central Mississippi River Partnership, so the CMRP 2.0, was incorporated as a nonprofit organization, and that includes all of the local governments that I mentioned earlier, but is also open to businesses, nonprofits, chambers of commerce, individuals, others. And so this group will be supporting the next phase of project planning and advocacy, and then also renewing that focus on community engagement and participation in the process. All right, next slide, please. So forming the CMRP nonprofit. So our goal and the goal of the group that approached us last year was to renew their focus on the Highway 25 corridor project and creating a mechanism to involve more entities and organizations and individuals throughout the region, throughout the region. So part of that, a lot of the work that we've done at the front end has been related to the legal entity formation process. So all of the fun paperwork and filings and documentation that go into forming a nonprofit. The CMRP is a 501c4 nonprofit, so it's not a charity. It's under a section that is referred to as social welfare organizations. And so we've created governing documents, we've established an organizational structure, developing membership framework, dues, creating a new logo, setting up a new website, working on some of that branding. And then as we wrap up sort of those preliminary formation and lay that groundwork, we're also shifting our focus towards building a membership base and increasing public awareness of the group. Next slide, please. All right, I'll touch a little bit on where we stand today. So next slide. So like I said, the CMRP nonprofit, the current organization, is a 501c4 nonprofit. It's funded entirely right now by membership dues from both government partners and affiliate members, and is the representative for the membership to coordinate project planning efforts, to represent the project and its members at the state and federal level. As you can see here, this is a pretty simplified version, but the membership structure, and this is an important component of why the nonprofit transition was made, but it allows for government partners, so local governments, to continue to participate and support the process, but also opens the door for other regional participants to participate and be members and support our work. So our government partners right now include the cities of Becker, Big Lake, Monticello, as well as Big Lake and Becker townships and Sherburne and Wright counties. So similar to that initial Trunk Highway 25 coalition. And our local government partners are responsible for the bulk of membership dues currently and are, administering the organization, but we're shifting that focus, like I said, on building up that affiliate membership and the affiliate participation right now. All right, next slide, please. So why a nonprofit membership organization? A few things. I feel like I've said this a million times already, but this is something that, was really the driving force behind it, is opening the door for other groups and organizations to participate in this process. Advocacy coalitions in general are a great option to pool regional resources and give more extensive capacity for project support and advocacy than an individual member might be able to support on their own. It also gives us access to additional subject matter expertise and additional funding, of course. It helps us demonstrate broad support for the project when we're working with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, the state legislature. One of the things that's really important is that we can demonstrate that this is something that has a broad base of regional support and that there are many different types of organizations and individuals and groups throughout the region that agree that this is a problem and that this needs to be solved. And that touches on to collective advocacy is more effective. It also helps us increase community engagement and awareness. This is pretty straightforward. The more folks that are members, the more folks that know about the project, they can spread the word, they can represent the project when you're out in your communities. It also helps us make sure all of our stakeholders are on the same page. This is, like I said, it's a slow and it's a complicated process. And it really helps to have a unified organization to be disseminating information, to be soliciting feedback, to be navigating some of the funding approval and application processes and all of those things. And then it also has a more flexible organizational structure compared to a joint powers. So this is a little bit technical in the weeds, but joint powers organizations are subject to many of the same restrictions that local governments are in terms of things like open meeting requirements and different reporting. And nonprofits are also subject to a lot of those requirements and reporting, but a nonprofit organization is able to be a little bit more nimble and flexible and accommodate different types of members. So next slide, please. All right, looking ahead. Like I said earlier, it takes a long time to build a bridge, and those of you familiar with working in government know that the gears sometimes turn pretty slowly. So the CMRP is continuing to be persistent in working with the state and the Federal Highway Administration as we prepare for the next phase, applying for various state and federal grant programs and funding. And while that's happening on one end, we're really digging into the membership and engagement side of things too, so that when we get those green lights on the project side and we're able to move on to the next step, we have that strong base built up already. So we're working on the affiliate membership program, community events, other public engagement efforts, and building more awareness of the partnership and the project. To that end, one of the things we're doing at the next CMRP board meeting, which is on October 30th, is a mini strategic planning session to sort of reflect on what the CMRP has done in the last year, in their first year of existence, but also to nail down sort of our focus and our action plan for the upcoming year. And if folks want to observe or participate in that, they are welcome to do so and should connect with Dan and or I for more information on that. Next slide, please. I'm almost done here, I promise. So, like I said, we're focusing on expanding the affiliate membership. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little bit of a membership pitch here today. But support from affiliate members is going to help this organization deliver project planning, public engagement efforts, research, policy development, legislative advocacy, organizational services like what we've been doing so far to strengthen and grow the coalition, and then communications and PR. But more than the support financially, I think what really matters to us is increasing the number of people whose names and logos we can put on our materials and say, these people are involved in this project. We're talking to them. They support this. They can speak to the impact of these of the issues in the Trunk Highway corridor region on their business or their family or their community, and they're going to underscore that this is an urgent need. So all of those things are great. If you're interested in learning more about affiliate membership, it's a great time to join now. You can choose a level that you'd like to support the group at, and if you pay dues now, you get the rest of 2025 included, and then it's considered paid for all of 2026. The reason I didn't come in person is because I get to sick all of you on Dan. So if you want any more information about affiliate membership, you can talk to him when I'm done talking. And that's all I have to say on that. So we can go to this last slide here. So this is my information. My email address is up there. Shane's email address is up there. The CMRP also has a contact email address. It goes right to me. So either way you want to get in touch is great. We have a website. And then my direct line is on there too if you want to give me a call. So thanks for listening, and I'll open the floor for any questions or contributions from Dan or Commissioner Danielewski.
All right, thank you, Emma. Any questions? Oh, there she is. Any questions for Emma Shane?
I just wanted to say, Mr. Chair, thank you, Emma, for a really good presentation and kind of lay into the foundation of where we are and where we've come from. Whenever she says 2016, I'm like, oh no, it was farther back than that when the conversation started happening. But we hear a lot of frustration from a lot of people because this is not the first effort at trying to get a bridge. There was an effort that probably would have been about 35 years ago or so, 30, 35?
For my time.
Yeah, quite a ways back, that went through a lot of the process and had gotten to an identified site location as to where to bring it across at. And there was a lot of pushback and some lawsuits, and so it just kind of fell apart. Everybody walked away like the problem was just gonna get better by itself. And so obviously it didn't. The need is definitely there. We do have the support of the state and understanding that we can no longer sustain a bridge crossing to cross that river, that the next nearest one is in Elk River, which is about 10 or so miles to the east. Then the next one that crosses the river is up by Clearwater, which is about 15 plus miles to the west. That is not sustainable for the growth of this area. So we're working very hard. It's a very challenging process, and it's always throwing curves at you. You go through these things, you're explained that you have to do these processes to show that you are trying to alleviate the situation of the congestion by addressing other things that you can address. One of the things we identified was the County Road 11 and Highway 10 lights that create such a backup, so we're working on trying to put an interchange in there to get that traffic up and over the railroad tracks and such. And we just got informed that, oh, well, we're not 100% sure if you should be doing that because we feel, this is from the Pell study perspective or from the Federal Highway Administration perspective, that it looks like you're identifying a crossing by doing that. And you cannot identify a crossing ahead of the Pell study. So now that put a roadblock into, really, we're just trying to alleviate a situation that is not us identifying a crossing, it's trying to check this box. So now we're trying to work through that, as to if we can continue to work that process and not put the bridge in jeopardy. So,
A speed bump, not a roadblock.
not a roadblock, a speed bump, yes, but dealing with government can be challenging. So we're working very hard to try to get over that speed bump and continue. And would like all of your participation. It behooves us as a region with the growth and stuff that is happening, just the situation when Northern Metals came to Becker and the amount of increased truck traffic that created was a huge impact on our roadway systems. Anything that develops out here is gonna have those same challenges, so we have to figure out how to get that bridge in to help diversify the opportunities that you can cross that river at. Another thing I think that's gonna create an issue is the Holcomb gravel mine. That is a 640 some acre site, of which 612 acres are going to be mined over a 30+ year period. And they're contemplating probably about, at their high peak, 300 trucks a day going in and out of that site. And there again, the only way to get anything across the river for that product to go wherever is the Clearwater Bridge or Highway 10 at some point. I mean, I just visualize this whole area is gonna really start to be challenged. That's kind of the summary of where we're at and where we're trying to get to, and would appreciate your support in helping to promote businesses to join the coalition. Those voices will help us be able to advocate down at the legislature, out at the federal government, the very need, because bridges are expensive as well. They take a while to build and they take a while to find that money.
I'll just add that Floridian Hood was a huge partner with the energy transition aid at the state of Minnesota, so we just received $1 million of that. Becker's been awarded funding, and Shane was a huge advocate and lobbied for that quite a bit. So not only this project, but also that project, Shane, we really appreciate all your help.
Yeah, and as we grow and hopefully add to our tax base in business growth, this is one of the things that will help businesses really want to locate here, is their ability to get their product out on roads that aren't going to be congested or having them backed up sitting waiting to get across a river.
Yeah, and I'll kind of echo the same thing as somebody that's watched this process from 20 years ago, sometimes active, sometimes as an observer. And like a lot of people in the county that have kind of rode the roller coaster as to this is some, this is nothing, and it's, I want to really thank Emma and Shane because the directive, the energy that's behind this now is something I haven't seen since the initial concept got brought up. And I think the group that's put together around the table brings also a new energy with actually anticipation that we might get something done instead of just talk about it. So I won't go to the level that I wake up excited to go to those meetings yet, but
They're 7:30 in the morning.
yeah.
We're gonna get there yet.
Yeah, but I'm very optimistic that there will be positive changes. And like I said, Emma and Shane are a big part of that. I'm very impressed. So thank you to them and whoever brought them on the team, so. Anything else?
Just one quick comment about the timeline. 2007 is kind of when a lot of this, really started kicking off. And one comparison Federal Highway gave us when we were talking about making a corridor connection between two interstates, Highway 10 and Highway 94, they use the 610 example, and they use, I think, 23 up in Brainerd, but they talked about 610, that the work on 610 started in like 1978. To try and cross the river, try and connect 94 to 35W, and it's just being completed now. So, it's a long process, so I think even though people may get discouraged by the timelines and how much time this takes, Federal Highway was the one that kind of said, well, that's what these processes kind of look like. So it's a good effort. It's great that, Rhiannon's been there from the start, and she'll see to the finish, I imagine. So I
have to say the second start, the first start that ended up not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I also have to say too, that it has really changed, and when it first came together, and it would have been, thank you for pointing that out, Mark, that is 06, bringing together Monticello, Big Lake, at that time, Big Lake Township, Monticello Township wasn't included at that point, and just trying to get us to work together, because you're always like, okay, what's in it for me? What's gonna help my area? You start to realize the regional thought process, and you really start to work together. The county, both, at that time it was just Sherburne County. I don't recall Wright County right away. Monticello was basically taking that lead. And you gotta find the money to do these kinds of projects. It's just not sitting there waiting. So the first thought is there's no money. Why are we even sitting here? And a particular person tried to, I'm voting to disband this group. We didn't disband, and now we are all working together, but that's what comes of working together, getting that regional aspect in mind and understanding the benefits it is. If one area does good and you're in that region, you're gonna do good as well. So I just wanna say it takes a lot of working together.
All right, amen. Anything else? All right, Shane, Emma, thanks for coming on today and giving us that update.
Thanks so much for having us, and thanks for saying all those nice things about us.
Yeah, thank you again.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right, on to our regular agenda. Planning and zoning ordinance rewrite process update from Mitch.
All right, so obviously EDA is aware of the zoning and subdivision ordinances update. We got to go ahead from this committee to move forward to the county board, who ultimately approved us moving forward with it. So I'll give you an update of where we're at. All right, so here's the history of it. In June of 2025, Sherburne County Planning and Zoning entered into an agreement with Bolton and Mink to update our current zoning and subdivisions ordinances. July of 2025, the steering committee and internal partners committees were formed. August 25th, 2025, we had our kickoff meeting for the steering committee and internal partners to review the progress that Bolton and Mink has made from their findings and recommendations on the current ordinances and variances. The next steering committee meetings are scheduled to take place in October. That will be October 27th, December of 25, and February of 26. Here's the scope and schedule of where we were at our August steering committee meeting. Obviously, that was August 25th. So this is the progress that we made so far. Obviously, we're hoping to get this to the board, county board, by April. Bolton and Mink will be at the Association of Township meeting on October 15th. They'll be there early for the townships with a table to kind of present of what's been happening so far for the people that aren't on the steering committee. Purpose of the steering committee: provide guidance, oversight, and support for the zoning and subdivision ordinance update process, ensure that the zoning and subdivision updates aligns with the county's goals and objectives, as well as reflect the interests of the cities and townships in the county. facilitate the decision-making processes. The individual roles of the steering committee for each individual would be attend a kickoff workshop, which we had done, 2 in-person meetings, represent the commission you sit on or municipality you live in, and provide updates to your commissions at their regular meetings. Ken sent me this photo and was adamant that I put it in, so thanks, Ken. I appreciate that.
Didn't happen for me.
They want to leave Ray out, so we
We
put.
did not. That can go away.
Yeah, publish this. Can
Look,
we get this up on the website?
No.
So representing County Commissioner, the elected Commissioner Danielowski, Ike, T. Vander Eyck, he's a Planning Commission Chair. Representing EDA is Ken. Steve DeMules is with Palmer Township. He's representing the agricultural townships. Dalton Keterling, he is from Orac Township. He's representing General Rural Township. Also Patty Kikowski, she's with Livonia Township. She's representing the Eastern General Rural Township. Greg Winsman's with Bogart Peterson. He's representing the local surveyor. And Marcus Burning is with Ziegler Custom Homes. They are a local developer and builder. Updates that have been made to the ordinances so far, they cleaned up the formatting. We've been doing a lot of amendments over the years, and none of it matches. We've been taking model ordinances from, shoreland and floodplain and putting it in with ours that have been there since, 94? And so they've been cleaning that up, which that alone, I would have spent the money just to do index, so easy to search and jump to specific topics. You can see that under other municipalities has that, which is very easy to just do your control search. Converted lists of permitted, conditional, interim, and accessory uses to easy to use table or matrices. That resulted in 5 pages of uses. Converted district standards from bulletin list to tables. So recommended updates to be made from Bolton and Mink is consolidating like uses and authorizing staff to discern if specific use isn't listed. Staff can determine if similar. Example is a bus service or compared to a school bus service. Determined what is allowed versus conditional, interim, and accessory. Reviewed updated draft table, or we will review the updated draft table at the next steering committee workshop. There are land use findings. We had check-ins with them regularly. So this is their findings, and from our input is to, for the hamlets to expand and enable senior and life cycle housing, more mixed use in those hamlets, which is Orac, San Diego, and Palmer. Shoreline residential, do we want to enforce or tighten regulations? Obviously with the DNR, we have many that we are restricted by state standards to adhere to. Agricultural, the key concerns was request to split agricultural lots to allow relatives working on farm to have their own parcel. It's very difficult in the agricultural zoning district to split parcels. They have to be at least 75% wooded currently. And a lot of those farms that they want to split the properties off are all ag, so there's no wood. Luckily, that ADU ordinance that was passed, we've seen that in the agricultural district, so that helps them out quite a bit. But we want to look into that percentage wooded requirement for lots to be split to preserve farming, energy production, balance solar with agricultural and other needs, and urban expansion, direct growth and designated expansion zones. How do we adjust different needs and interests for different cities? Each city, say Big Lake and Zimmerman, we have urban expansion areas around those cities, so we need to work with them to see how they want that. Our viewpoint is if a developer wants to come in, they're better off just to go into the city because that urban expansion has the amenities to accommodate that. So that's, and we did send out a survey, and that was one thing that the cities were concerned with is the urban expansion and how we work with them to make sure that we have smart growth.
Mark, along those lines, quick question. In those city urban expansion areas, is that an opportunity to, I know right now in the ordinances, you have to have so much of a distance between driveways on a county road. And I understand the reasoning for it when you get the speeds that county roads get up to, but in cities, they're not that speed.
Yep.
So is there a way to maybe look at it in a different way when you're in a, urban area as versus,
So that's a good question. And we did, after one of our meetings, reached out to Public Works and it did provide us with a map with their speed limits. And so, you know, when we get into hamlets, for example, the speed limit goes down to 30. Well, maybe that distance shouldn't be 330 feet if it's a 30-mile-per-hour area, so.
So yes, yeah, we'll be
So-
looking to utilize kind of changes in speed limits and the kind of difference in the area that it is, make modifications to our zoning ordinance, and then also work with,
Setbacks.
yeah, setbacks, but also work with Public Works to try and identify, because they have guiding principles on their roads. What can we see a reduction in those guiding principles, you know, for areas that we go down to 30 miles per hour, because eliminate that.
and that's kind of what my point was,
Yeah, so
when
we're-
you're in a city.
That's on our, so
Yeah,
that's,
okay,
that's on our
perfect.
radar.
I just didn't see it up here, so.
You know, no, it's a good question, and like what we said, for example, in San Diego, there's a lot for sale. And right now, there's a 130-foot setback to the center line of a CASA. Well, it's a 30-mile-per-hour, and all the existing buildings are right up on it, so now we're making a new one go far back, which isn't in flow with, you know, what's existing, so.
Yeah, so we see in one of the variants that we'll probably touch on, you see where variances, right, you know, those large setbacks impede development. So that's a property we keep getting calls on, but the way it currently is zoned and with the setbacks, it basically makes it unusable, but there's a lot of people interested in it.
Yeah, we'll get there with the variances. Findings for the code updates for hamlets, again, new mixed-use districts for hamlet areas. Housing, remove barriers to life cycle housing, senior housing, because again, right now, all we allow is one single-family dwelling, but you know, again, we did add the accessory dwelling unit, which should help out with the life cycle housing on the property. Agriculture and economic development, revise standards and add new business uses in ag and rural areas. Review regulations and standards for industrial and commercial uses. Energy development, overlay zones, or it's an interim use standards for solar installations. Zoning, revisit lot sizes. Again, we've been hearing a lot of 1 acre, someone in Clear Lake Township,
Yeah.
even 2
One of the
acres.
steering committee members who's engineer in that area, when I asked, I asked him after the meeting, I said, so what do you think is a practical size in the agricultural district? Right now, it's 5 acres, and he quickly responded 2 acres. You know, you start thinking about where those irrigation pivots are, and they have areas that are non-usable for agricultural production. Why shouldn't that property owner have the ability to put up, you know, break off a lot and, you know, put that to use? So that was a nice, that's a steering committee.
And I'll even look to the area in Big Lake that is, right over by the, fire department. That is, you know, it was designed as a PUD through a township, and those are about 1 acre lots. And those things have, you know, survived. Granted, when the septic goes, they gotta get a little more creative, but with technology, it's able to happen, so.
The 1 acre lots over here by, the old SWCD building, but I don't know what it is now.
RCS.
Yeah, just south of, Steve's Nursery. Those are 1 acre lots in the township.
Yeah.
And they're kind of stuck there because Elk River's not gonna take it over. Big Lake doesn't have the facilities, you know, marketplaces as far as it's come. So we look at that where, you know, if it's compatible with adjacent use, why can't you keep doing the 1 acre? Because we had a lot of national builders calling us when that was for sale. And eventually a farmer in the Clear Lake Township ended up buying it to farm it. We'd have national builders going, why is this still available? When you went into it, you know, 2.5 acres, because it's an ag, so it's 5, but, you know, all the requirements are like, okay, never mind. You know, they don't want to hear individual septics and sewer when you're a national builder. They want to go in and just curb and gutter and mass grade it and get as many lots as you can, but there's no services there, so.
And one thing you do find, like for that particular instance, is it isn't that the city can't probably service it, it's that people don't want to come onto a municipal system because they hear how expensive it is.
Yep. So, variance analyst, so road setbacks, as Mark indicated, is the biggest issue. Obviously, septics as well, shoreline setbacks, side setbacks. Most of these setbacks are in the shoreline overlay district and these very non-conforming lots around all of our lakes. Bridge Lake, Eagle Lake, Long Lake, are bigger lots, but, East Hunter, West Hunter, these are very small lots considering what we, are allowing today for a minimum size. Road, shoreline, and side rear setbacks can account for the majority of the requests. Septic system variances are also common. The reason for lot constraints, proximity to water bodies with these large setbacks to the lakes and the road. Obviously, these septics are larger, the tanks are large, the drain fields are large, and so trying to fit those in on these non-conforming lots is difficult, so variances are required because we can't administratively approve them in the office. Big Lake, Clear Lake, Orrock, and Palmer Townships have higher volumes of variance requests. Again, that's these non-conforming lots. Road setbacks are the most common variance. And septic and shoreline setbacks are also frequent, indicating challenges with lot configurations and environmental regulations, especially on legal non-conforming lots.
Is there an opportunity on that? Because we are being the front face for basically the state in regards to what their regulations are around these waters. And they are not a good partner at times in their getting back to backing it up. And so you sit there with issues that come up and you're waiting for someone from the DNR to get back to you with their reason.
Yeah.
And you'll wait and you'll wait. And these people in the meantime are in the middle of a build. And so maybe there's an opportunity to have a conversation with them that they need to be a lot more on, because otherwise, do your own. Why are we the ones that are, facing these challenges and carrying that, so to speak, negativity from the person that's trying to do their project?
Yeah, and these septic ones are difficult for us, especially around the water body when they have a failing septic and it's an imminent health threat and we have to wait 2-3 months for a variance. It's frustrating for the property owner, obviously, as well. But we have a good relationship with our local DNR hydrologist, James Bedell. He gives us some guidance. But yeah, when you get to the state level, it's a little more time-consuming. And so the variance findings recommendations, road setback variances are the most frequent, like we said. Standard local township roads 100 feet from the center line. County roads 100 feet, center line. State highway, again, 130 feet, and then platted is 67. So the platted, again, when we say platted, it's all platted. Even if the lot was established in 1950, it's 67 feet. So that's one thing we want to look at as these lots that were created prior to 1971, which is probably going to be around the lakes if we can, on our end, lessen that setback. I see a lot of variances go through, and as long as it's at least 20 feet from the right-of-way, you can get a vehicle out of the right-of-way. That's what they're looking at. If it's 10 feet, they typically don't like that if it's a new build, because you're going to be in the right-of-way in the snow, and those right-of-ways are a lot more narrow than they are today. So the issue is these large setbacks often do not reflect the existing lot sizes, like we said. Again, they're established prior to a zoning or shoreline ordinance, especially in the older subdivisions or rural or shoreline areas where lots are shallower or narrower. Recommendation, technical issue, discuss potential solutions with county's transportation and public works staff, as we discussed. We do have a thing in the ordinance right now where you can average or line up, so we can administratively, if you have 2 structures on each side of you, you can't go any closer to the road, but you can't go any, 50 feet, so there are ways that we can administratively approve it.
And one of the challenges, so with variances, we are approving, probably upward 90%. We try and filter as many of them as possible. We try to assist the public in avoiding, because they are an impediment to development. They take months. The fees are substantial for these projects. There's a lot of time and resources wasted going through the variance process, where we would like to have some more administrative flexibility. And that's what we will end up accomplishing with this ordinance. That's what we called out in the comp plan, was providing more flexibility for redevelopment opportunities. And there's a lot of positive stuff, that basically the consultant is highlighting these issues for us, bringing it to, you know, the forefront of people's attention, and then giving us some good guidance on what those changes will look like to mitigate it.
It's good to have an outside consultant look at it and say, why are you
Outside,
proving all these?
and
Why are
steering
you-
committee, and it's, you know, this effort right here, talking to EDA, talking to our townships, talking to our cities, letting them know the challenge that we're kind of facing and the changes that we're proposing to get them on board with these things to make it an easy adoption.
So our 3-month look ahead, August is done, September, these tasks 1, 2, and 4, 1 through 4, they go from our scope and where we're at in the process of it. So project management, we'll do a check-in, engagement, hold other focus groups. Again, nothing happening this month. Like October 27th is the next steering committee meeting. But other than that, Ken, Rand, do you have anything to add from the steering committee? I mean, I think it's a very diverse group.
Ken loves being on it.
Yes.
Actually, I was very impressed with the cross-section of participants that you did put together for that steering committee. The consultants that were hired, again, I couldn't be happier with. So representing the EDA here, which that's why I'm on that steering committee. My fear going in is that I'm dealing not only with our planners, but now they've hired backup militia. That wasn't the case. So
Well, when they started off saying we want the ordinance to go from this to this, so that smile on
Well,
her
Ken was
face.
just
Oh,
elated.
gosh.
You're
Yeah.
speaking my language.
Yeah.
So from an EDA perspective, the right people were hired to find that balance between, you know, property rights, public safety, and reducing this down so everybody can understand it, really especially staff. So I was very, very impressed with what was put together, and I think the outcome of this is gonna exceed my expectations, so.
And Todd, I'm sorry, I was gonna say Dan was there too. He's gonna be part of it with staff, so.
I was gonna ask Todd, as a developer, do you have any thoughts on where we're at or where we're going?
Well, I don't know on that part, but, I know before Ken and I, when we were walking out the last meeting, we talked, and I almost think like that steering committee, I was just, as I'm sitting here, if they were maybe invited into this meeting at one time and then come follow back up with the guy who presented up at the brewery to us, just to see, because that's kind of what led us on this track, I think, and I think it would be good for the steering committee to see that. What do you guys think on that? Yeah. Would that be?
Is it Luke Reiner you're thinking was the speaker?
I
Is that
think
from the
so.
state?
Yeah, from the state, yeah.
Which one would that have been?
This was a community partner meeting about 1.5 years ago, probably, maybe a little longer than
In
that.
Princeton, remember that meeting?
Yeah.
Was that sunken ship?
Yes.
And there were
yeah,
good information there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
But-
think anytime we can get some information and have more people hear it
Yeah.
is helpful.
And I think, yeah, obviously the 1 acre lots too. But then my other concern too is I see Haven Township looks like they're maybe looking at doing their own zoning as well. So, I mean, we've worked with Baldwin Township now and just seeing what the fees and the cost are up there. Is there a opportunity where like our zoning can come back into like a city or something like that and offer something that's better? Cause we're way more efficient down here than what it is at all these other places, you know, kinda almost like how the sheriff.
It's called growing pains.
And I know
Yeah.
it, and I appreciate that. Unfortunately, we can only control what we can control. And some of these, because I've thought about that also, I actually set up at one time about the county taking over the city. I didn't come up with a solution to that other than they've got to experience the shutdown in development and then reassess and go, well, maybe it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it
There are
though is
smarter people than me.
where
also.
you're gonna get them is where you can come back with, where it's financially, you know, to the pocketbook, you know.
Right.
Showing them that, hey, we can do this for less. We can maybe add on an extra fee that, cause right now, the way it sounded to me, like they're getting kickbacks from who their vendors are. Like, so they're profiting off of like the fees that they're doing, so they're actually bringing in revenue from that. Where maybe if,
It's not supposed to be revenue, it's supposed to just
well,
cover your costs.
whatever,
If they're making money, they're gonna get dinged.
well, yeah, you know how that works.
And one
Yeah.
thing we want to do for the developers, and we want to bring the professionals in, because we can, it's easy for us to say, you know, 3 feet of separation, 40,000 square feet, where it's like, we bring in an engineer that can show us that 1 foot of separation, because again, we only have so much land in this county.
Right,
And a lot of the land, a lot of areas have high water table, where you can build a house. You know, say it's a 40-acre lot, and people are like, is this buildable? It's like, okay, well, if you can meet the 1 foot of separation for low floor and you can put a septic mound on it, yeah. But yet you can't develop that property to more than just what it is, based off that soil separation. So Bolton and Mink luckily has some engineers, that's why we want Craig Wentzman with Bogart to give us his thoughts, because he's a professional and we're not. So that's one thing we want to do to open up for developers, is maybe lessening those restrictions that have been there for so long.
Well, and to Todd's point, I think what I'm hearing him say is that, unfortunately, a lot of times, some townships might think that, what's so hard about doing your own planning and zoning?
right,
And there's more to it, and you've got to have a bigger depth of, people, means hiring. And I don't think that they, put those two things together, and then they get out there, like you said, you're paying more in fees, because it costs money to cover those people. But my concern is that they're thinking in their mind that it's a moneymaker. Somebody has got to explain to them the rules, because you cannot make money on your planning and zoning. It's to cover your costs. And if someone figures out you're making money,
Well, look, at the end of the day, we can only control what we can control.
that's
And
true.
that's it, so I,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, we can only control what we can control. Let's put, you know, the good work is being done here on revising our planning and zoning, to the most efficient level that we can. At some point, you know, if other areas, Baldwin or whatever, look back and say, well, it's not worth it to us to keep doing this, because Sherburne County has evolved and they've put in modern planning and zoning. I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah, and we're open if they
but
want to.
what happens though when you end up losing Big Lake and Livonia?
I can
And
just,
where do you go from there?
we're paying attention to this. One thing that I would say is, cities are coming back to the county to do septic work. You know, to permit septics that are in their cities. So we're over.
Becker and Zimmerman just
Yep,
just
so I mean,
transitioned.
they are coming back, because we
And
do
Big
have the
Lake did it a
resources.
while back.
And we're efficient at this stuff, so we do Princeton, we do St. Cloud, you know, so we are efficient at some of those things. Building is another area that we probably could do some subcontracting work for these communities if they wanted to bring back the building side. We have a robust department to do that. But the other thing I would just say is, we are talking to the townships about this. We realize, you know, that there's frustrations, or, you know, it's just growth too. Sometimes, you know, communities just grow and they have to transition into a city. That's fine, but let's do it in a kind of logical, reasonable way. But we are talking to the townships to let them know what we're changing. We're going out to every township this October to kind of cover our ordinances and kind of highlight the things that we're doing. It also gives them an opportunity to kind of let us know where they're frustrated or disappointed with us. So we have a little pressure in Livonia, we have some pressure in Haven.
Well, we welcome the feedback. I mean, we're like, let us know what you're frustrated with.
But we are trying to work through those things, and part of it is we have to update, you know, this ordinance. That's why I'm so grateful that we actually have the resources to do this, because staff doesn't have, you know, the same, it's hard for us to dedicate this much time to it. We need outside eyes on our projects.
Well, and this is a 2-year project, and I think it's gone extremely well. I applaud you for following an update on a bridge project, which takes 40 years to do, so this makes it look like light speed. So nice job.
And I think also we're somewhat open too, like if a city wants to approach us, we've worked with cities in the past. Maybe not necessarily planning and zoning, but if the bandwidth is there is definitely an openness to entertain and ask.
I think the takeaway is, it's your responsibility to put out the better product. And that's it, and that's what we're doing now, and you put out the best product, then when the opportunity, they'll come back. But
And these
that's all
are-
we can control.
Yeah, these townships, some of them are challenges, like Todd said, Big Lake. I mean, you got the Elk River, you got the Mississippi, you got Egg, you got general rural, you got urban expansion, you got orderly.
They're not looking to be.
It-
No, they're not.
No, I'm just saying, but you look at the, like, how we're gonna work on our ordinance, and just even that township alone is, has so much going on. Now we have to do all the other ones, so.
All right, well, I'm very optimistic, as y'all know, I think this is the biggest, opportunity for economic development, deals with plan and zoning. Everything else is important, but this is the one that actually moves the needle, so. You good? Anything else? Other questions? All right, brings us to the, housing study update.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on the time here and do pretty well with it. It's a pretty quick presentation, but I just wanted to present back to you guys on how the event went, lessons learned from it, where we want to go with it next. But again, this event had a few different goals, ranging from really putting our housing study data that we got, which has been so important and so impactful, actually to some use and getting it out in front of an audience all at once, as well as getting more appreciation for our homeowner rehab loan program, getting that out there, and just continuing to develop those relationships and partnerships with housing community groups throughout. So lots of different goals there. These are some photos from the event. We actually have a really good photo of Ken. We didn't get it into the slide, but we'll send it out to the
You see
group
that
afterwards.
It's a little photos, guys, seriously.
Oh, this isn't out of anger.
Unless you're all gonna put your photos on.
Yeah. So
I'm in them somewhere.
we had a total of 77 participants at the event, really maxed out that Maple conference room. And we actually had to kind of basically turn a few people away at the very end because we were starting to get max capacity. Really good sampling of all of our different sub-markets, and tried to sit people at tables that represented their sub-market that they most work in. So, and about half of you in this room were there, so you can speak to it more than I can. I wanted to touch on how we met each goal. So the first was just that understanding and awareness of the housing study that we did, seeing if people are using it. So we did an after survey, and this was the rating. So 57% of our participants were satisfied with the data presentation that we give. 29% were highly satisfied. We got no one that was lower than satisfied, so we're happy with that. And we did send out emails once a week before the event, kind of referring back to that housing study. And we actually saw little spikes. They're not huge, but at least we got some web traffic to the housing study each time we sent out that email. We did provide just constant references back to the housing study and back to the housing study. So I think we met that goal pretty well. Second goal was to foster that collaboration and partnership. I think from the event, this was the biggest feedback we got, was people were thankful to have so many different agencies in the room to meet new folks and make new partnerships when it comes to housing in our region. Again, this was the survey. Out of all the participants that answered the survey, 43% were highly satisfied with the networking side. 57 were satisfied. No one was dissatisfied in the survey. And then what did you enjoy most? Networking was the big ticket there. So, and that kind of, when we get into the strategic plan, that actually kind of touches on us being a nexus of information and a networking opportunity. Just increasing the awareness of the rehab loan program. I printed out a copy for every single person, and we only had 2 that remained at the tables when people left. So they did leave with the policy, so at least we've got the policy in their hands. And, just getting that word out and figuring out ways to get the word out about our program.
I saw Molly on her social media ad.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, excellent. And then, again, the further partnerships or tools. So we know these were individual organizations that reached out to me after the event and said, thank you, we were able to connect with so-and-so. We haven't connected with them before. So I know, like, Habitat for Humanity made a lot of connections between our school districts and some of our other regions that he hadn't been able to touch base with. So that worked out really well. So as a networking, getting more people talking about housing, that was a success. And then in our strategic plan, we had the goal of working with HHS more on housing. So this was a dual partnership, really with the public health side of HHS. They saw housing as health, and so they were a big partner in helping to get this whole thing. They provided most of the table facilitators, so really this was a big event that they were a huge help for. So that was a good collaborative event. I did want to show, this is the overall survey. So the places where people were dissatisfied was the Lego map activity that we tried to do. The goal of that was to try and map out, if you looked over the next 5 years and thought about what can we do this year, and this year, how would that spread out over the next 5 years? I don't think we met the goals for that activity. I think the activity was a little too confusing for most of the tables, and most tables weren't the right people at the table to be able to make those decisions. And so if we did this again, we would remove that activity and go with a different activity. So definitely lessons learned there.
Yeah, I think the conversations were good.
Yeah, and I was consistently impressed, even if the activity was hard for people, when I walked around, the tables stayed engaged.
Yeah.
Even if the activity was tricky, every time I walked by a table, they were talking about, well, single family is easier than, you know, senior housing right now for us to work on or whatever else. So some good stuff there. Just follow up here. We did ask, what would you like to see as a follow-up event? I think this did kind of splinter out. Everyone has their own niche when it comes to what they want to see in housing. But the idea of continuing to keep people accountable to the action steps that people can deliver on, as well as we've got a few comments on ways to lower property tax, reduce costs to build. And so that's some of the feedback we got for what they'd want to see for a follow-up. I am following up with all the participants 30 days out, which will be next week, 60 days out, and then 90 days out, just to see if you were able to meet any of the goals on your own exit ticket, because we did ask people to do some goals from that. And that's kind of where it finishes off for the event. So we did just get a Patriot News article about the event that was very positive. Be careful when you link that article in your social medias, because the way Patriot News, there's something funny there. It has a picture of me in front of the group, and then it says, Big Lake man dies in car accident. So be careful when you link out.
That's sad, but.
I mean, it would really drive attention, but I don't want to create conspiracy there. So, but yeah, we did get good coverage there. I think we're still waiting for one from St. Cloud Live, because they were there as well. So this does, looking at the time, this does kind of lead us nicely into strategic plan, because housing is one of the main subtopics there. But I did want to ask any questions from the event or any feedback from the event from those that were there.
I'd like the one comment about commissioners to support funding home ownership.
Yeah.
Interesting thought.
Yeah.
I did want to say we were at a AMC fall conference last week. All the commissioners were there. We have areas of where we're assigned for committees. Mine is, I'm a subcommittee person for housing. And one of our discussions we've often talked about when we look at these, like we've got the gap now for the rehabilitation loan. And I think you've heard me say before that, you know, we need to start getting involved at a greater level in regards to helping developers and cities and townships in providing some cost participation in the development of infrastructure, because that is a huge barrier of cost for a developer to take on. And in our meeting, there is a study that is being done that's gonna be released soon on what the return on investment is for those investments. And I've often said, we hear people talk all the time about how government should work more like a business. Well, a business looks at return on investment. If you're gonna spend some of the taxpayer dollars and you're gonna invest it in something, you need to understand what that return on investment is. And when you do it for housing, it is a good return.
Yeah, it's that private-public partnership.
Yes.
That's so important.
All right. So yes, so times 1.5 here.
Sounds good. So strategic planning, Ken, Dan, and I sat down together and started to take a look at the strategic plan we're about halfway through the plan as it was of 2023 through 2028. So we did want to start looking at where are some areas, some areas we can already do some updates and crossing off that we've met some different points on this strategic plan. So I am passing out, one is a red line copy where you can see the edits we made, and one is kind of a proposed new copy that updates the strategic plan to 2025 through going into 2030, so looking out in that way. But we're not looking to have a huge conversation about it here, especially with time, but going into the October meeting, take a look at some of our proposed changes and some of the redlining there. If you'd like the old copy, I can send you the current copy. And going into October as well, one of the areas that we kind of left alone because we'd like to have a conversation with the whole board is the marketing side. The very last piece is, again, having that conversation around marketing. What does marketing look like for the EDA, for staff, and having that conversation too. But we wanted to bring this up and give you time in the next month here to look through, have any comments that you have, and then bring it back in the October meeting, have that time to share it out, have the discussions, and then start creating a new draft.
One thing I want to think about on this, as you guys are thinking about it over the next couple of weeks, two of the big initiatives that we're heading up from a board and from a county perspective that directly relates to EDA is lifting the nuclear moratorium in the state so that we can build nuclear power plants, which would have a big impact if we could get something going to replace Sherco. The second piece is data centers. A lot of counties don't want them. Some counties do, and I think we count ourselves as one that do, because when you talk about lowering property taxes, if you can get that kind of investment, because it is such a huge investment, it has the potential to have a significant impact on individual housing property taxes. So those are tactical items, but I think we need to think about, because there's such big swings and such, they require changes to state law, if they shouldn't be somehow included in the strategic plan. So think about those two items.
Share your thoughts, share your comments that you make on where was the first nuclear?
First nuclear power plant in the state of Minnesota was in Elk River. As far as nuclear goes, the comment that I always make is that the Navy has been running their version of small modular nuclear reactors for 70 years. And on top of that, there's 25 nuclear reactors on college campuses around the U.S., including one in the basement of the Double E building at Purdue University and one in the mechanical engineering at University of Wisconsin-Madison. So, and those have been running for 60 years. So it's time to move forward.
I love it when he makes those comments, because it really makes an impression, like, so what's our concern?
Yeah, thank you. Those are big ticket items that I agree.
You want to talk North Star at all? The board approved?
Oh, yeah. At our board meeting on Tuesday, we've all heard that the North Star will be no longer operating as of January 3rd. And so what we've done is contacted the Met Council, and the Met Council, we are not a part of the Met Council, so they can actually not service us without an agreement with MnDOT to come into our area. So we worked with MnDOT, we approved a pilot project for 2 years to run a bus 3 days a week, or no, 3 days,
3 times a day.
3 times a day, every week, thank you.
Three round trips a day.
Yep. Yep.
During weekdays
Yes.
for commuter to replace the North Star Rail.
Yeah, so it's a pilot program. MnDOT is gonna be paying half of it. The county is going to pay for the other half. We figure it's a very good, opportunity to see if this is something that would, be used and, sustainable. So, the board voted to approve that pilot project. So that is set to start the Monday after the North Star, shuts down and the Link bus shuts down.
So from a cost perspective, obviously the buses are a fraction of the cost of North Star. So order of magnitude per rider on North Star, the taxpayers were supplementing the cost on the around $4,600 per rider per month. Was what the supplement was to run the train. To run the bus, the estimate is it would be about $3,000 a year. So it is an order of magnitude smaller than that. In addition, when you take a look at, we're no longer paying the O&M cost of the North Star train. We will be shutting down the link from St. Cloud to Big Lake, which we were paying for previously. We're spending on commuter order of magnitude $1.1 to $1.3 million less than we were 2 years ago, and still doing the pilot project. So it's a significant savings in the transportation costs to the county, and we're still able to offer service. We just don't know if people are gonna ride a bus or not. That's why we're doing it as a pilot project. If it doesn't, if nobody's riding it, we can shut it down. There's no infrastructure cost, so we can turn it off on a dime.
Are they using the existing North Star?
Station.
Yeah, that's the plan, although I heard Elk
That's not our
River,
plan.
I heard that Elk River said that, well, maybe we can have the bus pick up at downtown. Like, you are out of your minds. There's no
Please don't.
parking
No,
downtown. So I'll talk to Cal about that and make sure that dies.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that MnDOT is having those kinds of conversations with, the St. Cloud bus, Metro bus, I think is who owns those. Yeah.
So ultimately, Metro will decide where the stops are
No, the stops will be at the station in Big Lake.
and
I'm
the station
sure
in
the
Elk River.
Station in Elk River.
I'm sure it'll be the station Elk
Yeah.
River.
Yeah, is there any marketing or communication that's gonna go out as
It
far as
just-
that goes?
It just hit the airwaves yesterday, and I'm sure that that will ramp up now as.
It got
Just
picked up by
neighbors.
NPR and Patriot yesterday, so I expect it'll get picked up, but you're right, in order for it to work, people have to know about it, right?
And this is a direct, it isn't, at first there was a conversation with, okay, you pick up in Big Lake, pick up in Elk River, and then you make the stops as you go to Ramsey. This will be a direct, it'll be pick up in Big Lake, pick up in Elk River, direct.
Because the county is partnering with Metro
With
Transit
MnDOT,
on
no,
that.
we're partnering with MnDOT.
MnDOT, okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why,
And I just think that those informational pieces are, obviously going to affect ridership and going to affect this accessibility. And the timing of this, like all of the information, if commuters have that information, maybe.
agreed.
Well, as Brian said, marketing, is really a big enough item in our strategic plan that we wanted to separate that and have a good discussion, so, I think that all plays into it. All right,
We've covered announcements 4.2, so you don't. I just crossed it off, we just did.
are you sure? Thank you. All right, you're still on the floor.
And if you're okay with it, Mr. Chair, I know my updates are in the packet, but I wanted to give Josh some time for coming in. But we added another layer here for any of the city EDAs or community development that come in and sit through the meeting. It'd be nice to hear from them too. So Josh, if you want to, you have a few minutes for any Elk River updates.
Sure. And I'll keep it brief. We have some new projects, expansions, as well as some other things I'd like to share. So some of the new projects that we weren't necessarily involved in, but happen in our community. Les Schwab Tires, Tono Pizzeria and Cheesesteaks, Wingstop, Five Below, Pickle Paradise just opened in the former Marcus Cinema, Chase Bank, and Vireo Health is a cannabis grower that is in the old GRE sorting facility. So they're not operational yet, but they're building out right now. Expansions, J&J Machine, Timron Machining, and Spectrum Middle School Field House, all new expansions here. We just awarded our inaugural Garden Gem Awards, which is similar to our Beautification Award, but strictly focused on landscapes and gardens. There's some homeowner categories as well as a commercial category, so that was kind of a fun thing to do this year. On that same thread, we're still doing our annual Beautification Award, which focuses on business exterior improvements, usually structural improvements. So nomination period is up at the end of September here. We've had a lot of interest in that. We have 6 nominations for 5 businesses, which is the most we've had since I've been running the program, so that's great to see the interest there. We're still doing our development minute videos, our open for business reels, and on Monday we just signed the purchase agreement for our new liquor store and cannabis store land purchase from Coburn's on 169. So look to start getting the ball rolling and get something built there, and then we'd be looking to offload the existing northbound liquor site, which is a prime, corner of, right on 169. So hoping to get a good use in that site. But those are my quick updates.
Do you have any concerns from the Office of Cannabis the registration program around the low dose cannabis products, the edibles and the drinks? That's transitioning from a registration to a licensing system October 1st. So it used to be, if you're going to sell the drinks, you just register with the state. Now it's got to be registration, and I believe or licensing and registration, local registration. You guys, and this is going to happen starting October 1st. Do you guys have any concerns over that transition?
I haven't heard any concerns, and I'm unfamiliar with it. I could talk to our cannabis and liquor store staff and see what they think, and update you guys next month.
Okay.
Where are you at on the Quick Trip property?
They may do some earthwork here this year, but probably will start building next spring.
Is that the one over here?
Staff are very excited.
Yeah.
Good addition, and
emphasize that enough.
yeah, ready. It's nice that the Serrano brothers open up their restaurant, so hopefully we can get some more action on this side of town here.
You just want to stop them from going down to Big Lake.
That's fair.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good information. Everybody else,
Do you guys want to talk cannabis real quick? You've got some applications, do you just real couple?
We had our first cannabis OCM confirmation. So OCM sent us confirmation that one of the businesses has gone through as a micro cannabis business. We issued an interim use permit for it. It's located right on 169. It's a food truck operation, but they're actually expanding into cannabis cultivation at that site. It's right on 169 Livonia Township. And so that's our first registered cannabis business now for growing of cannabis.
How does the food truck operation work? They actually travel around then, like
So the food truck is separate. So it's Mama's Tacos.
They're diversifying. They're diversifying their.
I think they have a special churro.
You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, however, if you get people, the munchies works well for the food truck.
Girl Scout cookies and.
Yeah, so that's our first one. OCM has been challenging, as it goes without saying.
Well, we've seen challenges in our ordinance as well, though.
And we have some things in our ordinance too, because we had to get our ordinance done. You know, we actually adopted a zoning ordinance before the state had their model, or before they had their rules adopted. Because we were told to have it done by a certain date, we did that. Well, the state took another 3 months to get their rules adopted. So we do have some challenges, we are gonna have to go back and make some modifications of our ordinance.
An example of a micro business, you know, cultivation is an allowable use on its own. But a micro business, we're saying that if you're in the ag district, it's an interim use to cultivate and manufacture. Like, okay, why are we making them do an interim for cultivation if it's allowable? So that's where we gotta tweak
We
it.
also found out that greenhouses count as outdoor cultivation. That was something that we wouldn't have known because the state rules weren't.
Well, and we're being educated on the people inquiring to us, like greenhouses, they're an outdoor cultivation or.
Yeah, so we have to be adaptive. We do I get a lot of phone calls on registration for cities. They will work with our auditor treasurer's office. So auditor treasurer does the licensing, we kind of do the land use approvals accepted in that area or not. Then auditor treasurers took on the whole new responsibility of registering all these businesses. And yes, having to register all the edibles and all the consumption ones is a whole new thing that we weren't expecting. That was a new shock when that came across. When I saw that in the news, like, oh, we're now doing that too.
Well, and what I'm worried about on that is there were so many, because it was so easy to, all you had to do is register with the state and just say, hey, I'm selling these things. And now we're going to a licensing program. I'm not concerned about the people that are following the rules and doing their license and getting their registration. I'm concerned about, there's gonna be a subsegment that are gonna keep selling, but they're not gonna apply for the license. And how do we reconcile that? That's the one that I'm worried about.
Okay. All right, with that, I would really be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So, hey, since we're done, just a shameless plug for myself. I'll be on Around Town TV streaming program tonight. I'm talking about organizational leadership development. Supposed to do it last night, technology failed us. So I'll be on tonight about 6 p.m.
And also, Josh, I so much appreciate your reels and stuff, I tell you. I wish I
Those
wish
are
all
really
cities
good.
would pick up that thought process, because
Fun to do.
that's where people see stuff.
Setting up the
Yeah, that's from the last, where we are trying to set up our first one with the business in Big Lake.
Yeah.
I think those are best practices.